If you've been getting absolutely crushed this NBA playoffs by blowouts, players suddenly forgetting how to shoot, random injuries, and questionable coaching decisions, this is the video for you. We're less than 2 weeks into the postseason, and with the help of this one concept, I've cashed 25x slips like this, and this. See, the problem is, everyone's out here chasing the next 40-point game from SGA or another triple-double from Jokic. But what if I told you that betting on what won't happen is actually way more profitable than betting on what will? That's right, I'm talking about betting unders. In this video, I'll break down why betting unders in the NBA playoffs is one of the most profitable strategies you can do right now. I'll walk you through the data, the psychology, and most importantly, which props you should be targeting to stay ahead of PrizePicks. Look, I get it. Nobody wants to bet the under. It's way more fun to root for monster stat lines, step back threes, and overtime. Betting the over means you're cheering for chaos, but cheering for something doesn't make it profitable. And if you've been following my content, you already know. I'm not here to chase hype. I'm here to chase edges backed by data. And when it comes to NBA player props in the playoffs, the edge is surprisingly clear. Over the last month, I dug into 2,486 player points props across the last 3 NBA postseasons. No cherry picking, no skipping forgettable games. I tracked every player, every game, using consensus lines from the major sportsbooks. I'm talking about the industry standard projections heading into that game. For example, LeBron James, April 25th, 2024. Just a random game 3 in the first round. But I've got it logged. His line was set at 25.5 points. He went over with 26. So, if it was an official playoff game and it had a player points prop, it's in the data. And here's what the data set tells us. 55% of those props hit the under. Remember, sportsbooks aim to set these lines at 50-50. So when you see a 5% lean over nearly 2,500 props, that's a signal that there's a potential inefficiency in the market. And at that hit rate, I guarantee blindly taking unders would have outperformed someone doing research and chasing overs. Now, obviously, we're talking about player points here, but that 55% under hit rate got me thinking. What if we start looking at every type of player prop on platforms like PrizePicks? We'll get into that later in the video, but before we do, let's try to make sense of why unders would perform well in the playoffs. Because on the surface, it feels a little counterintuitive, right? Key players tend to average 3 to 4 more minutes in the playoffs, so you'd expect their numbers to go up. But it doesn't work like that, because when minutes rise, production doesn't scale with them, and the playoff environment drags numbers down in 3 key ways. First, the pace slows down dramatically. In all but 2 seasons since 1980, playoff games feature fewer possessions per game than the regular season. Take 2024. In the regular season, teams averaged 98.5 possessions per game. In the playoffs, that dropped to 92.6. That's nearly 6 fewer possessions, which means fewer opportunities to score, rebound, assist, all of it. But why the slowdown? With heavier minutes, stars pace themselves, walking the ball up slower and being more deliberate. Meanwhile, defenses lock in with championship focus, forcing longer possessions. This leads us to our second key factor: shooting efficiency plummets. Regular season basketball thrives on flow, ball movement, and quick decisions. In the playoffs, those advantages diminish. Defensive scouting sharpens, matchups are targeted, and stars are forced to create alone. There's more isolations, tougher shots, and lower efficiency. And the numbers confirm it. Field goal percentages typically drop 2 to 3% on 2s and 3 to 4% on 3s. Let's bring it all to life with a real example. Michael Porter Jr. during the Nuggets title run. In the regular season, MPJ was an efficiency machine with the Nuggets offense. But then the playoffs hit, and with that came a massive drop-off in production. His points per 100 possessions dropped from 26.1 to 22.4. His 2-point field goal percentage fell from 58.2% to 51.9. And as you could probably guess by now, his 3-point percentage also dropped. 41.3% down to 35.2%. Same player, same role, same offense, but a completely different environment. His minutes went up, but his efficiency tanked. But that's the point. A player can log 40 minutes in a playoff game with a 200-point total, yet produce less compared to a 35-minute regular season game that ends with 240 points. And MPJ is just one example. This pattern shows up across the majority of players and seasons. The playoffs compress the game and expose inefficiency, which leads us to our next reason unders may hit more often. Blowouts are way more common in the playoffs than you might think. You'd expect fewer blowouts in the playoffs with the elimination of tanking teams like the Wizards, Jazz, and Hornets. Technically, only the best teams remain. But the reality is, playoff games are blowout factories. Let's look at the hard numbers. In the 2022 playoffs, 55% of games were decided by 10 plus points. In 2023, that number tapered slightly down to 50% of games, but quickly bounced back up to 56% in 2024. In this postseason, so far, nearly half of all games have been decided by 10 plus points. But it gets worse. Those catastrophic 20 plus point beatdowns, they aren't all that rare. Last season alone, 22 out of 82 playoff games were 20-plus point blowouts. That's more than a quarter of the games where starters get pulled early and overbets die a slow death on the bench. And this isn't some recent anomaly. The trend holds year after year. From 2003 to 2023, playoff games had a higher rate of 20-plus point blowouts than regular season games. What's even more interesting is the deeper you go in the playoffs, the more likely blowouts become. Just this season, Steve Kerr pulled all his starters in the third quarter when down 30 in a potential series-clinching game. That single coaching decision instantly destroyed thousands of overbets. So, bringing these three factors together, you've got fewer possessions, less efficient shooting, and more than average blowouts. The overall result is a perfect storm for unders. Now let's talk about what actually matters. PrizePicks. I dug into nearly 7,000 props from this postseason, and what I found confirms everything we've been talking about. Unsurprisingly, the same principle holds. Unders are the favorite outcome, with 53.67% of player props going under. Of the major props, points actually don't hit under as often as the consensus sample, only going under 51.24% of the time. However, the other major props like rebounds, assists, and PRA all went under at rates at around 57%, 54%, and 54.5% respectively. What's crazy is that literally every prop type favors the under with a sample size of at least 250 props each. That is except for one, as we'll get into a bit. Though the most profitable props to target with unders are rebounds, rebounds plus assists, and field goals attempted, all hitting under over 56% of the time. Those hit rates aren't just good, they're all above that critical 54% threshold that makes them automatically profitable on 6-leg flex plays, which means you could have blindly bet unders on these categories all playoffs and very likely been in the green. The one exception I mentioned is the free throws made prop. It actually favors overs at 55.12%. This does make perfect sense considering playoff foul rates. Teams average 18.9 fouls per 100 possessions in the regular season versus 20.7 in the playoffs. And PrizePicks doesn't seem to be fully accounting for this trend. So we've established that betting unders is definitely more profitable. But here's a last layer that makes the strategy even more powerful. Correlation. Remember that Warriors game where Kerr pulled all the starters? Curry led the team with just 13 points. Not a single starter reached their projected points total. Every points prop, every PRA, every finest score went under at the same time. So don't view NBA props in isolation. Playoff conditions affect entire teams at once. This is where that stacking becomes your edge. Take multiple unders from the same game, especially on the same team. In a blowout scenario, for example, when coaches pull their starters, you're not just winning one under, you're cashing multiple unders from a single coaching decision. The moral of the story, you should be avoiding overs like the plague this playoffs. Betting unders isn't fun, but losing is even worse. I separate emotions from strategy, and my goal is to help you guys make money. And trust me when I say around 80% of my picks in my premium Discord are unders, and I've been extremely profitable in the long run. Now, most viewers won't make it this far in this video, so they'll miss this final edge. For those still with me, I'm offering 30% off my Discord with code NBA. The first 50 people to join will get direct access to my profitable picks across all sports every single day for a portion of the price. Once you join, send me a DM on Discord and I'll let you know how you could get even more free days.